The next concept is, so as we have discussed about the lambda expressions, and we have used those lambdas with the help of predefined function interfaces. Then when it comes to any lambda expression cannot be reused, can't be reusable. What's the meaning of that? If you write any lambda expression with so and so reference, then is it possible to reuse or not? Is the point that I'm trying to make. For example, inside a class, then to perform any task and to execute it, I'm considering the main method. When it comes to any lambda expression that is written inside this main method for the execution purpose, then is it possible to reuse? That's the question. I mean to say, if we use any predicate with some generic integer type and where some reference of the predicate equals a number lambda number greater than 100. That means this is one lambda expression where the numbers are greater than 100 are considered. That's a true scenario. Then with the reference of p and with predefined function interface called as predicate of integer type. Then we can use the same reference called as this p dot a test function and with some number to give, and accordingly we are going to get the results. For this it's a false result. Then if you're going for this p dot test of course we are trying inside the print statement. Then if I go for some 200, then the predicate will return true. Correct? I mean predicate the test function will return true. That means to see the output, of course we have to write inside. We have to call that inside the print statement. And within that, if we write it, then we are going to get the expected result. Correct? Then is it possible to reuse this one inside some other class? That's what the question is. If at all we go for the scenario is it says same thing called as if any number is greater than 100, then return true. So for that, if we go for any class, any other class, I mean to say, there is it possible to reuse or not is the point that I'm trying to ask. It is nothing but if we have one more class, say public class, some class name, test2, and inside this, again to execute we need a main method. So if I consider main method once again, and inside this main method, again the requirement is to consider number and return true if the number is more than 100. If that is the case, is it possible to reuse this existing reference? Is it possible? We are writing one lambda. Yes, the same lambda, same requirement is there in the next class also. And when it comes to next class, if the same requirement, already we have written the same thing in one of the previous class, right? Then is it possible to reuse this result there or reuse this reference there? This reference can be used? No, it's not possible. So here, the reference of lambda expression written in test1 test class can't be reused here. That's what I mean to say. Lambda expressions are not reusable. We can't reuse it. Then if at all it's required, then what to do? Rewrite once again. Then rewriting is never recommended. Right now, it is not recommended to write the duplicate code. But the requirement is same, but not possible to reuse also. Then what's the solution for this? So that's when Java 8 has one more concept called as a method reference concept. To reuse the lambdas, yeah, a method reference concept is introduced. Method reference is the next concept. So what is this method reference? Method reference is an equivalent form of lambda. Method reference is equivalent form of lambda. Equivalent form of lambda expressions. That means we can write lambda expressions or we can write the, method references. So because lambdas are not allowed to reuse it, then method references are allowed to reuse it. That's the difference. Yeah. So then what is method reference? Method reference is same as lambda only. Then why method reference is introduced? Method references allows to reuse lambdas for reusability. If at all we write lambda in lambda style, we can't reuse it. If we write the lambda in method reference style, then we can reuse it. That's the difference. Yeah. Then what is the symbol of this method reference? Method reference symbol or operator is double colon operator. Double colon is operator which will represent the method reference. Now let's understand with one example that if we go for any class of programmer choice, say public class, some class A, inside this class block, if I write some method, so I'm writing one method here, say public of then a boolean, then followed by some say get result is my method name, and which I'm passing as one integer argument. Inside this method, we can write some logic or any logic or no logic. So as per the return type is boolean, what we supposed to do? Return true or false. That's mandatory thing. With some logic, I'll return true. So as Java syntax, as per Java syntax, we have a class, we have a method which takes one integer argument which returns a boolean. Then we are returning the true out of it. So that's what is a simple class with method, right? Now in this scenario, if at all we go for using this in the lambda style, so public some class, again some class name will take as test3, and inside this again a main method. Yeah, I'm not typing this main method just to save the time, just main method. Then followed by inside this main method, now I would like to write a lambda for it. How to write a lambda expression for this one? So you go for according to this requirement, take the number, then perform this modulo division of 2 double equals 0 is yes or no, which returns what value? A boolean value, because the expression is like that. Boolean variable some b I'll take. Now instead of this true, can we return this b? Yes, we can return the b value, right? Now let's write the logic of lambda expression. So what's the lambda expression there? So lambda expressions, we write it with the help of function interfaces. Then here I'm taking one function interface called as predicate of input type integer, then some predicate reference name, say p2 or p3 equals. Now what's the right hand side code? When it comes to lambda expressions, then only we are going to use the function interfaces. Or when we are using function interfaces, we have to write the lambda expressions. Any which way is fine. But now we are not going to write in lambda expressions. We are going to write the method reference syntax. Then which method is referred for this scenario? Get result is a method, correct? Then get result is which type of method? Instance or static? I'm not using any static keyword in this method declaration. Therefore, it is a instance method. So when it comes to instance methods accessibility, object is required or optional? Object of the class is required for instance members to access, or object is optional? Object is mandatory for accessing the instance members. That's why first create the A class object, some reference. Then here, in place of these lambda expressions, now we have to go for method reference. What's object variable? A. Method reference syntax, double colon. Method name we supposed to write. Only method name. What's the method name? Get result. Only method name. So previously all method calling discussions, we discussed about method name and parameters and appropriate values to be the inputs. But when it comes to method reference syntax, we have to go for only calling the method name. That's all. So here, when it comes to method reference, the syntax of this method reference is the syntax of method reference is nothing but what is syntax? Method name, yeah, object reference, then followed by any of the object. That's why I'm using angle brackets. Then double colon is operator. double colon is operator, then followed by method name. That's the syntax. So this syntax is for the syntax. This syntax is for instance methods. Now currently we are having one instance within this class A. That's why we are using the object reference called A and then followed by its method name only. Now how to execute this one? Because we are using a predicate called P3, and when it comes to predicate must be used with test only. No? Now use the P3 dot test, and while calling test we have to pass the input. Say 10. Accordingly we are going to get the output because we have written the even logic here. Hello. So this is how we go for method references. Now where is the reusability here? We are discussing about lambda is not allowed to reuse. Therefore the solution is method references. Then how to reuse it? So for that, I'll take one more example. So I'll copy the same code and I'll change the class name. So in the other class name called say test4. Again by creating the object of the class, because we need to go for method reference of instance type. Then we have the same reference of the object. And then are we using same method name or are we rewriting this once again? The existing method is already present, which is having some logic and which is having some return value. Therefore, are we rewriting this or are we going to reuse it? We are reusing the method name. Then what is the result of it? Again, it's going to return true or false only based on the input type, right? We are not rewriting any code additionally. Just simply we are reusing the same thing from the another class also. And when it comes to only lambdas, is it possible? Is it possible here? No, it's not possible. So because it's not possible to reuse it, what we're supposed to do? We have to go for a predicate, then use the integer input as generic type I capital. Of course, I'll change it. Then equals. Then again go for number lambda number modulo 2 double equals 0. Then use by the print function with test system.out.println. Then followed by println of predicate reference dot test and then pass the arguments accordingly. You are going to get the output. So my question is, are we rewriting this logic or not? Of course, here instead of this, I have to go for the same logic so that greater than 100 or not is the scenario. Then are we rewriting or we are reusing it? This is rewritten up, rewriting. No? So here we have written already in one class, which has some reference called P. So we are not allowed to reuse this lambda. That's why we are rewriting it. But how many times you have rewrite the same logic? That's when the method reference solve that problem of once we write the method with so and so reference required logic there, then we can use it as many number of times as we want from any number of classes. That's a solution of reusability of lambdas if we write in the method reference style. Because what are we using the left hand side? Function interface only. Then function interface purpose is what? Use lambdas. But now we are not using lambda, then we are using the method reference. That's why if you just observe the statement, method reference is same as a lambda expression only. It's another form of lambda. The way of writing is different from writing a lambda in lambda style to writing a lambda in the method reference style. But both will work with method reference allows to reuse the lambda expressions. And here, method references will be used with function interface only. Just excuse me for those spellings and all. Yeah. So that's what is nothing but method reference also will work with function interface only. Then lambda expression also will work with function interface only. But the way we write lambda in lambda style is different from the method style. When we write in one method, then we can reuse that anytime, number of times. If you go for lambda style, we have to write every time. That's the difference. Am I clear? Yes, sir. Then from this, there can be a possibility of some questions or some doubts. There can be some possibility of doubts. That what if this A class has multiple methods? Is question number one. When it comes to multiple methods, we are aware of that already. The method name can be same with a different signature. or different methods. When method name is different, then there is no problem because we are using a method name. If this A class has some M method, then are we using M here? No, therefore there is no conflict or ambiguity. But what if we have one more method here? What if we have one more method that is a public, then void some M and the, sorry, not M, the method is say get result only. That's where the doubt, right? Then with zero arguments I'll take, then the block. Any logic is required because it's void type, nothing is mandatory or nothing is forced to write. Now in this scenario, this get result method that we are using in this syntax of method reference will be representing this first method or second method. Why? Where are we passing the value for this? Test method will take, predicate has one test method. Test method by default will take one input. But how that is with a get result? Yeah, your answer is right. Because we are using which reference for this method reference? Method reference is used with which function interface? Predicate. Predicate has which function? Test. Test will take how many inputs? One input only. So by default, the method reference name that we are using, which should match with the number of arguments of the function interface called as test. Number of arguments. I'm not saying method name. So because test will take one input, get result with method with one input is the only connectivity between how come this get result is using the test or test is using get result is nothing but the number of arguments which matters, not the access modifier, not the return type, not the method name, only the method arguments of the method that programmer has written and a predefined function interface method called as test number of arguments. That's the only connectivity between the predicate can be used with function reference and we can use a test function of the predicate. Am I clear? Yes. Hello? So if yes, now let's understand the first and simplest example from the IDE as well. So here in this Java 8 project, in this SRC, in any of these packages, I'm just creating one class with an example of some class name, say test. If it's already there, it will throw error. If not, it's not present. Fine. Then this test class I'm going to use for execution purpose. Then let me consider main method inside this one. And then followed by, let's define one class. And let's write the syntax of a method with some logic in that. Then we are going to use that as a method reference scenario. I'm just waiting for this IntelliSense window to come. So if not, I'll type the syntax of say public static void main and then followed by a string array args. And inside this main method block, now we can go for writing the code. So I'm defining one class here, class of programmer choice. In one Java file, we can't have more than one public class. Then I'll take one method, say public. Then return type, I'll take a Boolean. Then method name, I'll take it as some get result followed by one integer argument. And inside this method block, let's go for writing some logic here. Say x modulo 2 double equals 0, a Boolean expression I'm writing. Therefore, we can store it into some Boolean reference. Then as per the method syntax, return type is non-void. It makes mandatory to return the appropriate return variable or value. That's method logic. Now to reuse this method in terms of method reference, first what we need? Create the object. Which class? A class object is required. Then followed by the object of this A and write this A with method reference symbol called as double colon operator and method name only is required, that is get result is a method name. So this is what previously we used to write lambda here directly, but now we are writing the method reference. Lambdas works with function interfaces. Method reference also works with function interfaces only. So then what is the function interface which is suitable for this one? We can use predicate or we can use function as well. So predicate of which generic input, say integer, then control space to import the wrapper class or I capital. Then some predicate reference of programmer choice. Let me use something else, say P1. Now control shift O for required imports, then everything will be imported. Then do we have any errors? No. That's a proof that the right hand side is previously we used to write lambdas. Now we are writing a method reference. Left hand side code is the function interface only. So this is the proof that method reference is equivalent form of lambda or replacement of lambda. Then followed by how to use it. System.out.println to print because test will return something. So P1 dot. Now we can call test method or predicate methods only and give any input of programmer choice. Accordingly, we are going to get the result. Control F11 to run the program. Yes, Java application. Then see the result. So 100 is even number because we are adding the logic of even. True. Correct. Now, what is the meaning of reusability? The same A, which is having already a method with some information, if at all we want the same result, we need not to write this once again. We can reuse it from wherever we want. To prove that, I'm just going to create a new class with some class name of programmer choice set test2. And there also we need the main method. And then just create the object of A class. We can directly create because they both are present in the same package. And use the reference of this again with method reference, object reference with method reference symbol. Then go for get result after calling and then followed by no arguments, only the end of the statement. Use with predefined function interface called as predicate with integer type and then followed by some predicate reference of programmer choice. And by using this predicate reference, we have to call control shift O for imports. Yes. Then use the print statement and use P2 dot. We can call a test function, calling it outside. Just a second. So here P2 dot test. And when it comes to testing, you can give any integer value there. Now we can see the result of true or false. Triple one for even logic is false. Let's run to cross verify the output. So did we rewrite any logic? No, we are only reusing the same method. That's what is about method reference, how to reuse it, whereas lambda expressions can't be reusable. So and then followed by here I'm just changing this access modifier from public to non-public. Means what is access modifier now? Default. Correct? Are we getting any error anywhere? Are we getting any error in the existing usage? No, we are not getting. Now if I go for this access modifier, same thing once again, and I'll change my return type. Return type to something as say void. If return type is void, then we are not allowed to return. I'll comment on this. Yeah. Now are we getting any error? Yes, because predicate expects a boolean return only, now which is not matching to that. That's the reason behind the return type of this method is required to be boolean. Now method name get result. Can we use any method name? Can we use any method name and replace it accordingly or not? Yeah, I'm reusing this get result, but if I keep this as yum, here also can I use yum or not? Yes, we can use it, right? So that's where method name also is not connectivity. What's connected? If I use 0 arguments, now you see there is error. Why error? Because predicate has a test function. Test function by default will take one input or if required multiple inputs, but not 0 inputs. But the method reference that we are using is not matching to the test method of the predicate. That's the reason behind why it's throwing the error. Now what we have to provide? Any argument you have to provide, but because we are writing some even logic, then that should be integer number one or integer input one. Clear? The next. When it comes to next part, We discussed one more point. What if the same class has overloaded method of the get result? Still, do we have any ambiguity? No, because the arguments of get result and also the arguments of test, wherever the match is there, that will be considered here. And we can't write two methods with same name with same inputs in the same class. Correct? Can we write one more get result method within this A class only, which takes one more integer argument? I mean, only one integer argument. Once again, not possible. That's why there is no ambiguity of if one class has multiple methods with the same name, and then while using this method reference, which will be considered? The function interface has one method. That method has some number of inputs, and our method and the function interface method, the input should match. That will be considered if at all we have multiple. That's the connectivity. Hope I'm clear when it comes to this method reference. Still, if you have any questions, please ask. And one more thing is, interestingly, if you go for this private, what will happen? Not accessible. Correct? Then if I go for protected, any concerns? No concerns. Right? Private is not visible, remaining all are visible. And what is the access modifier of the predicate function called a test? Or predicate method called as test? By default, interface members are public. But now which access modifier I am using? Protected. Then if we think in the overriding terminology, then from public to protected is allowed or not allowed? Public to protected while overriding. We can't decrease the scope of the access modifier, right? It's not possible. But is method reference allowing or not? It's allowing, right? The few more things. Now it is strictly not oops. Few were violated. So when it comes to Java 8 to enable some functional programming, then some of the rules were not as strict as the OOPS languages. That's a flexibility. Clear? Yes. Then the next question comes, our next point to understand that. Now we discussed about one method reference example for instance methods only. Then what if the method is static? Is it possible to use the static methods for method reference, or we must go for only instance methods? The next question, right? Yes, method reference can be used with static methods also. Method reference can be used along with instance. We can use static methods also. Then immediately the next question comes, what is a syntax? If it is instance method, what is the syntax? Object reference name, then double colon operator, then method name, not method signature. When it comes to static methods accessibility, do we need the object? To access a static method, do we need the object? No. Class name is enough, right? Not mandated to have the object reference. That's why the syntax of static methods method reference is, here is a class name, then followed by method reference symbol called as double colon operator, then followed by the method name. That's all. That's how static methods method reference can be used. Hello? Then let's see the same thing with the same example. What I have to do now? Change this to static. If method is static, then we are not using the method reference in the static way. What is static way? Use the class name. So instead of the object reference, that's it. Now object is not required. And use the class name to achieve the method reference with method name. Class name double colon method name is the approach of method reference for static members. Control F11. Now you can see we are getting that same true. So if I change this value to 200, still we are going to get true is output. Control F11 to see the output of the program. Then in this another class also, we can reuse it, but again change the static style. Use the class name. Now object is not required. So here also, let me run this program to cross verify. The output is false because of 111. Or if I add one more numbers also, still we are going to get the same output, odd number. That's the proof of static methods, class name, double colon operator, followed by the method name for the static methods method reference syntax. Hope I'm clear. Yes, so this is about what is method reference, why method reference, how to use method references in order to replace the lambda expressions to reuse the code. If you still have any questions, please, you can put it in the comments.